Oh no, they read about me all the time.
They
Oh yeah, like I said, I ran into Charlie Hubbard, actually the principal of the school. He came up to me one day, he said, geez, I read about you everywhere. And I said, well, you told me I wasn't going to make it. Life-grown experiences. Because I even say it to some of my own people who, the previous chief of Eel Ground, he passed away a few years ago, but he come and apologized to me about a year ago. Because he was the chief who led the members of Eel Ground to try to come down and take the land from my mother. But he realized how much my family, because all my siblings are educated. One was an RCMP officer, he just retired. My sister was just out in Paris on drug abuse. She runs the rehabilitation center. My sister had a PhD in anthropology. My brother was a lawyer. My older brother was a lawyer. Unfortunately, he has bipolar now, so he had to leave that. And my other brother, who passed away when he was 42, was an industrial mechanic. So we did go get all our education, but it was funny how the universities on professional designation was real tough. For some reason, the Indian agents seemed to follow that, of how many First Nation people went to universities, but the colleges, they didn't. So when my brother got his mechanical engineer trade certificate there, he never asked for his card. He graduated roughly when I was the same age, so because we're only 11 months apart. When my parents didn't waste time, I guess, but he was like my twin brother, but I lost him when he was 41. He would have been 57, and I'm 46. He was like my twin brother, but he was also protected me when I was growing up. I remember what I would call these wars. My brother was a fighter. I hate to say it. His name was Michael. He looked like, no word to lie, he looked like Rocky. The hair and everything, he had the same built and same feature, but he was a tough bugger. But he used to be the protector in the family after my father died. And he wasn't the oldest boy. My oldest boy, Danny, couldn't fight for crap. But Danny, Michael used to get, well, that's why he's a lawyer, eh? That's why he turned out being a lawyer. Couldn't fight for crap. But anyways, the community was in my uncle's yard, Lloyd. And you know Lloyd.
Yeah.
And even Lloyd was one of these fellas back then. Like I said, Lloyd's nice now, Catfish. Yeah. He's nice now, but back then he was part of that group. They used to try to get us booted off. And it was because we had river frontage. My father owned land under the Veterans Land Act. And the Veterans Land Act is no different than, if you trace your family history, if you had any members of your ancestors that served in the Canadian Armed Forces, part of their reward when they came back, they were given some land by the government of Canada. That's how a lot of the private land got established in this country, is that if you served in the forces, depending on your ranking, you got anywhere from 10 acres up to 1,000 acres, just depending on your ranking. My father, Billy Boy, and my grandfather served in the armies too. But for a native person, never made no difference what their ranking was. They got 3 acres. 3 acres of community-owned ground inside the reservation. And then most of the time, the Indian agent didn't do the paperwork. So the land was never ever fully recognized. But because my father was somewhat educated, back then grade 3 you had a master's degree, right? So he went up to grade 3, so he had a master's degree. My mother was a nurse, so she was educated. And they made sure the paperwork was done. So that piece of ground where I live is 11 acres of veterans' land. That's why you don't see a lot of houses around us and stuff like that, like the typical reservations, because that is owned by the family. But it's still banned land, but it has that designation. But they wanted to get it, real bad, get it from us. They wanted to kick my mother off the reserve and, of course, get rid of the kids, eh? And they were out there in the Lloyd's yard one time, and my brother was one of the counselors there now. His name is Anthony Francis. Was him and Danny were trying to, go at it. And it was so funny. Neither one of them could fight. So the thing, and my brother Michael was watching me. And we're out by the way, because we're scared, because we're just kids. We were scared. And my brother Michael said, boys can't fight for beans. And I'm only 13 years old. He went out, walked right out. This is how you do it, Dan. Bing, bing, bing. Out cold, eh? Come back in the house. But my brother Michael was the protector of the family. He was a fighter. There was one time, and I think he was 15 years old. He come home, he was all bloodied. And I said to him, we said to him, what happened to you? Oh, don't worry about me. Ambulance are going by. He said, that's the other guy. But that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
Even Regional Chief Augustine was down there.
I can imagine.
Yeah. That's how bad it was.
I heard about it.
Yeah. But no, I had an interesting child. But I don't flaunt my success to anybody. I'll let them read about it. So thank you. It was nice talking to you.